Welcome to Difficult Conversation Africa broadcast. I present to you the host, Yinka Olaito.
This is Difficult Conversation African podcast. My name is Inka Olaito, a platform where we unpack issues that affect governance and accountability across Africa, and where we address issues that many are afraid to discuss. In this episode, we'll be looking at fixing Nigeria governance issue, deficit, corruption, and all of this stuff. But before I introduce my guest, I would like to give you the background of what we're discussing. Nigeria governance crisis is not new, but its consequences are increasingly visible in daily life. From collapsing infrastructures to failing public services, weak institutions, and entrenched corruption continue to undermine citizen trust in government. Billions are lost annually to grafts and mismanagement, while accountability mechanisms often prove too weak or too politicized to deliver justice. Yet, beneath the bleak outlook lies a struggle for reform. Civics movement, investigative journalists, technology innovators, and sections of the private sectors are pushing for greater transparency. The question is no longer whether corruption exists, but how Nigeria can break free from the cycle of impunity and institutional weakness that perpetuates its governance crisis. This conversation dives into root of Nigeria governance failures, the lived experiences of corruption, and the practical road to reform. My guest today works with GGA, which is Good Governance Africa Nigeria Office. His name is Kabir Adejumo, a popular investigative journalist, governance and public affairs analyst at GGA Nigeria. Kabir Adejumo is senior researcher, anti-corruption, governance, and accountability. Welcome to the show, Kabir Adejumo.
Good morning, sir. It's really great honor to join you here. And thanks for the good job you do to strengthen Nigeria's democracy.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the work you do too. You have been an inspiration to younger people demanding accountability, transparency, and your work speak for you. And I'm so glad that I know somebody like you who had been passionate from his day, from the undergraduate, and is still passionate about good governance till today. So we look at. I'm sure you've listened to the background of the conversation. My first question to you is: what are the structural root of Nigeria governance crisis beyond corruption as a single issue?
Yeah, thank you very much. If I may address this, I would say, from our experience and what we've observed, it's the first is lack of respect for rule of law. I think the lack of respect for rule of law has been the reason why people continue to do all sort of things, illegalities, and thereabouts. One typical example is a case of the Minister of Science, Innovation, and Technology, who had just been exposed for, issuing fake certificate. He, yes, he claimed to have gone to school, and interestingly, yes, there's difference between attending a university and graduating from the university. So it's for me, it's just the nature of people who do not respect the rule of law. Ordinarily, you are expected, and don't be surprised. I mean, the Senate, the leadership, I mean, it was screened by DSS. It passed through a lot of
Exactly.
processes,
Security
before,
services.
yes, before he got, but this is not the first. You remember in the return of, I think, the Fourth Republic, if you remember the former Senate president, who was also involved in such scandal. We had a case of Kemi Adejumo, while our own was not even certificate, but
Quasi.
somebody, yes, somebody issuing saying, "Oh, I took part in NYSC," when
When she
ordinarily,
did not.
Yes, and investigations even showed then that people really, whether we like it or not, she was aware. And when they got to know, I mean, the honorable thing you could have done is to, oh, I've now realized this, rather than trying to, say, oh, how do we? And it is natural. You've seen places where students fail exams in schools, and they tend to meet lecturers and say, oh, how can you? I failed just a course. Can you waive it for me? And these are some of the little, it's just lack of respect for the rule of law, or lack of respect for constitution of the land. That is the real grassroots, I mean, the root of corruption. Because when the law says A, B, C, and D, people fail to do A, B, C, and D. And when they fail to do A, B, C, and D, they tend to do what would save them from being punished for not doing A, B, C, and D. And what will save them from not being punished? It's nothing but bribery and corruption.
This is huge. This is so huge. Um, we will get into some of these issues that you raised in the course of the conversation. Let me not jump the queue. But in what ways does poor governance directly affect everyday Nigerian in terms of the education, in terms of healthcare, in terms of infrastructure and security?
God bless you. Uh, you know, there's a saying, I'm not sure whether I get the fellow, I mean, the right sage who said so, that if we fail to take responsibility, then we cannot, or if you run away from taking responsibility, you cannot run away from the repercussion of not taking responsibility. It is the responsibility of government to provide security, protect lives and properties. But it is in this same country as well that we all remember the Dasuki gates. We've seen
Yeah,
people who ordinarily the money that is meant for to safeguard the country being
security.
diverted. It is not two ways. I mean, I'm not sure it's a question that everybody. The result is that more people will be affected. The result of government's inability to provide schools for children of the poor is that there will be more people on the street hawking. The effect is that you have more out of school children, you have more underage children who are married, you have more children who are supposed to be in school, but farming, you have more children whose parents would be using to pay back loans or give them or say, oh, come and marry my daughter because I cannot pay back my loans. You have the result is that an average Nigerian will be on this road and will be not be so certain of whether he's going to get to his destination alive. The result is that an accident would occur, and ordinarily, an accident that should not lead to death would kill an average Nigerian. The result is that some people will go to the hospital, and because the hospital lack electricity or stable electricity, what then happen is that in the course of giving birth, people will lose their lives. These are some of the real things that happen to an average Nigerian. You go into the street, the ambulance is not working. People who are supposed to get money to get these things done, they siphon the money. You go to hospitals. We in this century, you still have hospitals without beds. You still have people, schools where children, they say education is free for the poor, but till today, you still go to schools that people, it is free, but it is even costly because they have to pay more. I mean, how do you explain? You said you are giving free education to people, and you ask them to bring broom. The students are the one that will bring the chair they will sit on. They will be the one to buy what do you guys call it, duster. They'll bring chalk to school. So is that really free education? That is because the government has failed in its responsibility to take action. Yes, people argue that education is not free in every part of the world, and the argument is this, that but let's ask ourselves, it is this same country that the government will be owing ASU members and will claim, rather than increasing their salary, but will be willing to give them loan. These are the results. And you now see the child of the poor who cannot attend, I mean, because OAU, Unilora, and these other schools, are not too good for them, like my boss Moji Dadabi will say, that they now create mushroom universities. So before you know to go to this, you see so universities, and when you get to know, they have 2, 3, 4 chairs in the classrooms. Then the child of the poor will be forced to say, "Oh, Nigeria, there's always strike. University lecturers are always having issues," and the next thing he wants to do is to go to Benin Republic and Ghana, only to realize that those universities are not even accredited. So these are the things that happen when governments fail to take responsibility, when government failed to do the right thing for the people, not just the common. And you see, there's a saying, that the child of the poor that that are refused to be raised, that we're not taking care of, one day will look at the child of the rich and attack them. The results was that of hensas that we saw. You've got police officers protecting and have. I mean, I wrote some stories in the past where police officers are used as maids, where police officers carry bags of big men, and yet we do not. I mean, have enough police to secure the lives of an average Nigerian. But you've got people who are in power having, I mean, passed through several places. You see big men having police around, and Nigerians continue to suffer. They battle security. These are some of the things that you ask yourself, that if democracy itself is government of the people, by the people, and for the people, what we now see is government of the privileged for the privileged, you know, and you now are by the privileged, and that's the reality. So it's really a painful thing when you look at it and you ask yourself, till when are we going to do this? How long as a nation are we going to continue to battle the? And that is what, for us as Good Governance Africa, will continue. For instance, the Youth Advocate for Good Governance initiative is to ensure that we do youth inclusion. That government should not be for some people. When you say youth, an average Nigerian youth is on the streets, if not doing yahoo yahoo, if not the good ones who say, okay, let's try to get things right. They get profiled, and that's the question you ask yourself: that at what stage as a nation will Nigeria get it right? So the failure of the government, and what really happens sometimes is that when some of these issues happen, the danger may not be immediate. Imagine the country continue to fight it. In Borno, you are not so sure. I mean, when people say things are relatively fine, then the next thing you hear is that military base have been attacked by terrorists. So these are the dangers that come with it. People cannot have good access to good water. The last time what happened in Lagos, they claimed, what was it called? That cholera, the cholera outbreak that happened, was it last year in Lagos? It was claimed to have been caused by uh, tiger nuts. But in reality, is this the cause, or the failure of the government to address open defecation? The failure of the government to ensure that people have potable water to drink? So these are some of the challenges that come with it. So, and the media that sometimes try to tell, they say, oh no, don't say this, don't report this. Those are the challenges we face. So whether we like it or not, if the government continue to not to take responsibility, do the right thing, the poor will continue to suffer. And when the poor suffer and get to a stage, trust me, people, angry Nigerians will say, oh, enough is enough. It may not be now. It may not be. I mean, nobody planned for the hensas, and it did happen. And that is what we are trying to do, to engage government, to engage people to realize that Nigerians are getting tired. It will come a day when people will say, oh, no, we can't do this again. So, but before it get then, how do we try as much as possible to ensure that Nigerian youths are included? How do we try to ensure that Nigerian youths are engaged? How do we ensure that Nigerian youths get what the dividend of democracy? And that's just what I'm going to say on that, sir.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback. Um, let's talk about leadership. Based on your own opinion, I believe that leadership is in different category, and therefore, when we talk about good governance or bad governance, leadership is involved. But I don't think that it is all about the leadership, because there's an adage or a cliche that says that people always get the kind of leaders they want. And so, my question to you is: how much of Nigeria governance failure is about leadership, um, choices versus system institutional weakness? Because if the institutions are strong, leaders cannot do anything. By your own estimate, what do you think? And how do you also rate weak institutions too?
Yeah, thank you very much. So, if you would permit me, I'll quickly highlight that at GGA Nigeria, we've got six thematic areas, and I will list them. So, for you to know what we
Okay.
are doing and that we understand some of these things. One is rule of law and security. Uh, Two is youth advocate for good governance, which I've mentioned. The security project for us is that we look at the security challenges in Nigeria, prefer solutions, and we've got a team member currently working with the Office of the Chief of Defense Staff to ensure that we look at the non kinetic approach to address security challenges in Nigeria. Another one is youth advocate for good governance, which is, under the youth advocate of good governance. Just some days ago, we had the Africa's Girl Child Dialogue when we ensure that young girls are carried along in issues that affect their lives. Earlier this year, where we had a youth advocate event in Unilag where we train people on ethical leadership, which is taking us to the question that you asked on ethical leadership. Now, what do we mean by ethical leadership? The kind of leadership that ensures that transparency does not necessarily need to start from when you become the governor. It must start from the grassroots. And recently we had an event, and while we were having the event, some person had said they were going to donate to us. And when the money came in, the first thing my boss had to do was to call myself and my colleague to say, "Oh, this is how much these guys have been sent to us. This is what we're going to use it to do." For me, that is high level of transparency, because he felt like, no, it is not just about me. It is not just about the organization. I see no reason. And you see, you've seen situations, you've seen instances where people work in organizations and they don't even know what the organization had. Those are the things that we need to start asking to ask ourselves. The leaders of today, and that's the reason why we are doing this youth advocate for good governance. I'll cite an example from our experience in my days in university, in OAU, for instance. I, as a campus journalist, exposed the wrongdoing about how the student union leadership, they got a student union boss, and when they got the student union boss they purchased for 700,000, lied to the student that they got the boss for 1 point something million naira. So it tells you that
Can you imagine?
these same guys will be the one that will graduate tomorrow. If I to become a local government chairman, they will be the one to grow. And it is not, the corruption did not just start.
Become governor and
You get the point. The corruption did not just
yeah,
start at the stage when they become governors. At the stage when they become. I mean, you see student union election, you see NANS election where people take guns there. So it tells you that it is not until when they are now
exactly.
contesting for mainstream in the mainstream politics that they start all of this. It's something that had started, which is the real problem. And that's why I felt like, no, we must ensure that when we talk about ethical leadership, we start from the grassroots. So it is not saying, oh, Nigerian leaders are bad. And this is how you get to know when issues happen and it affects people that they love on social media. You see people say, oh, is our friend, and because of that, they should not attack him. Then tomorrow, when the person
Mm.
is not their friend, and don't be surprised, you see people push arguments. You see that, oh, it's happened everywhere. It's happened. So when an argument is, go check. When an argument suits so person, they say, oh, it is due diligence. The government must do this. I'll cite an example. Really, people may not really agree with me on this, and when the issue of the man who police were trying to stop in Ibadan at a time, and they shot him dead, and I mean one of the sons died in the vehicle. Some
Right.
people,
Yeah.
yes, some people push the argument. You see people, Nigerians' opinion. Some people push the argument that why would the man have passed, what's it called, one way. So they said if he had not passed one way, police would not have shot him. Then some people push the argument that, oh no, the police should not. Now if you now trace back the issue to certain other issues that happen where the same issue, they will now say, yes, if it happened to somebody they don't love, they say, oh, the guy should not have so look at Kwaman's case. In the case of they say, oh, the pilot, he wanted to kick A1. He wanted to do this. He wanted to, forgetting that if A, B, C, D had not happened, every other things that follow would not happen. It's a process. So
Yeah.
these are some of the challenges we face. Another thing we do is at our institution, I've mentioned the security, what's it called? Yeah, which is a youth advocate for good governance. I've mentioned the anti-corruption and governance accountability, which is what we continue to do to hold power to account. And that thing we do is ethical investment. Aside from ethical investment, we also do institutional capacity and service delivery. How do we do institutional capacity and service delivery? Currently, one of our senior associates is engaging the office of the vice president on issues of foresight as to what Nigeria should look out to in the nearest future, where we need to work on. We've got issues around, we are also trying to partner the Osun State government on how the government can tap on natural resource to boost the economy of the states. These are some of the things that organizations should be doing to ensure that we don't just sit to criticize, we don't just sit to attack, but to provide solutions to some of these things. We go as far as training people in government, training people to ensure that, when things are discussed, they are truly addressed. So it is not just about people in power, as we're saying, but rather people at the grassroots as well. A child goes to the kitchen to take meat, the mother is not saying, oh, stop this. A teacher beat a student in school, and the next thing you want to say is that you have to take the child away from the school without asking question that what necessitated the beating. So these are some of the things that we face. It is the era where somebody disrespect officials rather than saying, oh, why do you disrespect the official? You say, oh, it is a work, so we've lost the value as a nation where we say, oh, people, it used to be people get to the top in the past with good character and grades. Now, you necessarily do not need to have good character. You just need to find your way and buy your way into the system. So these are some of the challenges that happen. It's go and check. People who are corrupt, who are getting things bad in Nigeria. I can tell you, it did not just start at the very time they got, get to power. It started long, long, long ago before their involvement in politics.
Yeah.
And I think what we are trying to say is that leaders are product of the society. So they do not just emerge from the moon. They are product. So it is not issue of leadership alone. Then that's what we are trying to say. The institutions are weak, and I think that is why organizations like you are coming forward to strengthen the institutions and all of that. And this will lead us to the next question, which is very important to the discussion. In your own opinion, why have Nigerian Anti-Corruption Agency and judicial system struggled to deliver credible results?
Let me put it this way. I'm expected to hold authority to account, but the same authority is paying my salary. I'm expected to hold authorities to account. At the end of the year, they buy jeeps. You see governors buy cars for judges. The real question is, how will these judges be able to hold these guys accountable? You've seen situation where a judge is a wife of a minister, or a judge is a wife of a state governor. These are some of the challenges that we face. We've got a system where the leadership of anti-corruption agents or agencies are appointed by governors. They are appointed by presidents, and we expect miracle. Of course, these are the challenges we face. It's done by independent individuals, maybe. If not, we'll continue to have issue, because let's not forget the saying that he that pays the piper dictates the tune. So, in as much as the people in power continue to appoint people, the anti-guys in the anti-corruption agents or anti-graft agencies, who continue to have issues, this is a place where people are more concerned about whether you are an Igbo or Yoruba person than they are concerned about whether you are a Nigerian. So these are some of the challenges that I think the judicial system is facing, until we are bold enough to say no. No is no. Corruption should not exist
because, or I should not be dealt with because you are a member of the APC, and the moment you are a member of the PDP, you are forgiven. No, until we get to that stage where people, they talked about the presidential pardon, and you get to realize that an average, how many Nigerians the poor Nigerians, how many of them even get the president's pardon or the clemency? So these are some of the challenges that we really need to. Go to Kirikiri, you see a lot of people who were basically arrested, all in the name of stealing, pickpocket. Somebody who ordinarily you should ask that what pushed you here. People would be able, to say, "Oh, I have this challenge," and thereabout. People, they shortchange people in prison. It's really a sad one. At the time I was handling a case of a boy who was arrested during NSAS. After he was arrested, uh the high PO, because they could not have somebody to come and take his bail, they had to make a video of this boy, put gun in his a pistol in front, do a video and ask him to confess to being a cultist. See, now the parents are still looking for him. We've got a case where IPO of a matter is the one advising the parent of a rape survivor to say, "Oh, just leave this man, let him go." He has apologized. So how do you get justice in such system? Then do you also blame these police officers? How do you explain to a police officer? I've done reports where we go to places where police officers, they go with their rifles, but when they sleep in the midnight, they have water gushing, rushing over their head. Look at the situation of the police barracks that got collapsed in Ibadan. I visited the place. Even animals should not stay there. So how do you explain to a police officer who is not getting properly paid to uphold the tenet of democracy or to ensure? People are not getting paid what they should get ordinarily, and you expect, you can only say, "Oh, you are a thief," when they are being. Recently, look at what happened to military police officers who get retired. I've spoken with wives, or do you call it? Yeah, widows of police officers who died in the course of tackling IPOP crisis in the southeast. Some of them, their children can no longer go to school. So how do we encourage people who are still in service? These are some of the challenges that we face,
Yeah.
and until government
Yeah.
address that
Because of our
people
time,
who,
because
yes.
Because of our time, how does political patronage, appointment, contract, and election fuel the culture of impunity in Nigeria?
And I think that's what I've just explained. That except we get to a stage, some guys have pushed the argument. I've seen the ADC say, "Oh, INEC chairman should not be appointed by the president, and thereby should be some group and thereby." Well, I think there's really a lot to be done with Nigerian constitution. The constitution gives so much power to the president of the land that makes
okay,
people, yes, I think that's a major challenge. The power governors and presidents have, according to the constitution, is so, and we cannot address this except to go back to the amendment of the constitution. So I would say that what Nigerians need at the moment is holistic view of the constitution, so that the constitution itself is it can, the constitution should be able to hold its own self accountable, which is what is lacking, because there's really no accountability process that the government of the day is not frustrating. They create more laws. For instance, you've got
so
the Cybercrime Act
yeah,
that is they are being used to tag
so
the
I
guard
know that
the. So these are
the
some of the
journalist. So
challenges.
Now, what is the role of civil society investigative journalists? What should we be doing in holding government accountable? And are you sure they are doing the best?
Oh,
they are
interestingly, they
best.
have been doing so. Interestingly, give it to. We've got investigative journalism one when the minister who who claimed to have gone to university and to have graduated in August, he was forced to resign. In the case of Kemi Adeosun, investigative journalism one. In the case of
Okay.
disbandment of SARS, civil society organizations and demand of Nigeria. So what we need more is not, I would say, is not more civil society organization. It is my former boss, Idris Akinbaju, that will say this, that the people who are stealing Nigerians' money they collaborate to do so, then why should investigative journalists, why should civil society organizations not also collaborate to expose this wrongdoing? So I would rather say, rather than creating more newsrooms, more civil society organizations, the existing ones should collaborate more to ensure that they come together to expose the hues and holes of these bad guys as well.
Now, okay, let's go to the, because of time. What is the role of the people, young people and grassroots activism in pushing systemic reform, and how can they overcome the suppression of their voices?
I think the first thing first is that an average Nigerian should be willing to participate in election. The fact, ask questions. You cannot, you must first understand that you're a Nigerian and you demand answer from authorities. People just want to move on. The problem we have mostly in Nigeria is that when things happen and people are not affected, they just pretend as if nothing has happened. It is when it happens to them that they take actions. No, we must first understand that it is Kabir today, tomorrow it may be Kunle. It is Kunle today, tomorrow it may be Tayo. So until we get to that stage in our governance, when people understand that participation, I should not just be an onlooker. Governments, we are the government, and they say that democracy, it is not when the people are scared of those in power, but when those in power are scared of the people. I think that is when we can say, yes, we've really achieved our own aim. People should ask questions. Unfortunately, somebody was asking recently that how come that when you post important issues on social medias, you don't get traction for them, but when you post people posting all sorts of nonsense, those are the things that trend. And the answer I give is this: that the government basically understand that when people are learned, when they are brilliant, when they do the right thing, they begin to ask questions. So they tend to push money. They tend to support BB Nigeria. They tend to support all sorts of things that would distract Nigerian youth. And that's the reality. They support things that will distract Nigerian youth from demanding accountability. So when they do that, it is time for grassroots organizations, business economies to also come together to say, no, people must demand. Because when business organizations say, okay, let's leave this, let's support all of this and not support initiatives like ours, with time, when youth are angry, when there's violence, their business, the economy of the country will also die.
Thank you, Kabir Adejumo, the Senior Researcher, Anti-Corruption and Governance Accountability at GGA Nigeria. Thank you for that insight. And on that note, because of time, I'm sure we're going to have a part 2 of this in no distant future, because we always have a 35 minutes mark. I want to say thank you for the insight you have shared, and thank you for the good work you and your team at GGA Nigeria and Africa is doing to ensure that we refix the politics and the governance deficits in Nigeria and Africa. It has been a good time speaking with Kabir Adejumo, and thank you, our listener, for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then don't forget to subscribe to our podcast website, the newsletter at www.difficultconversationafricapodcast.org. See you in the next edition. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. For inquiry, please send an email to info@difficultconversationafrica.org. Telephone 0809 3160591. Please follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Difficult Conversation Africa. See you soon.